As someone who obviously, you spent time around Vince McMahon, you obviously knew him through your work. Like, it's discussed in the book how Vince was always looking 5, if not 10 years ahead. Like, he was never standing still. He was never satisfied in the moment. Like, could anyone other than Vince McMahon have pulled off a success story like WrestleMania 3? Because it was such a ridiculous jump from where wrestling was.
I mean, this is an interesting topic, and this also comes up a lot, not just when I'm doing a podcast, when I'm sometimes just, talking with friends. What if there wasn't a Vince McMahon? What if Vince McMahon realized he was good at something else? What would professional wrestling be like today? We really don't know. Mm. In that period of time, I don't believe there was anyone who had both the drive and the willingness to spend money to make these spectacles and recruit. WrestleMania 1 was when he recruited A-list celebrities. WrestleMania 2 was from 3 separate locations: New York, Chicago, or the Chicago metro area, and Los Angeles. And he was sending a message: we are the national promotion. We're not in, Jim Crockett Promotions had done shows on closed circuit from Greensboro and from Atlanta. This isn't Greensboro and Atlanta. This is New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, the top population centers in the United States. And he was sending that message. We are the only brand when it comes to professional wrestling. And WrestleMania 3 was a forerunner. Today, people fly to WrestleMania from all over the world. Although I interviewed a few people for the book who flew there, a lot of them drove there. But it was the first time professional wrestling was marketed to something other than the specific region where the event was taking place. If a show was in Chicago, it was marketed to the people in the Chicago area. This was outside of Detroit. So you could have people from Illinois and Wisconsin and Ohio all driving there. People from Ontario driving down from Canada. They were driving, but they still came. And that was the beginning of people coming from all parts of the globe to see wrestling, and specifically WWE wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, and I went to Philadelphia last year for my first ever in-person WrestleMania. So even though I've been following this product since 1992, that was the first time I made the pilgrimage. I think that's a really appropriate term, Keith, because I was going to go to WrestleMania 30. Just as I was looking into tickets, we found out we were pregnant with our first son, and I couldn't really swing that one with my other half.
Yeah, I mean, you could, but you probably wouldn't be married.
Exactly. WrestleMania 40, I'd launched this podcast. I was at least vaguely able to say this element to it. But I mean, I found the experience so overwhelming, like genuinely, like too much. I wasn't prepared. But you see all these events that are happening when you're looking on social media and you see, oh, there's this indie show here or someone's doing a comedy show. It all seems doable. And then you arrive and it's the sheer overwhelm of fans everywhere in a big crowded city. And I mean, it completely wiped me out, WrestleMania last year. I've warned people now, if you're going from the UK to US for WrestleMania, you don't have to do everything. Because if all
you'll kill yourself.
Yeah, if I did. I mean, if all you did was the 2 nights of WrestleMania, that's actually a lot of wrestling in itself. That's 9 hours in itself.
Right.
So let alone Raw, SmackDown, Hall of Fame, even if you just did WWE things and didn't do anything else.
There's a lot of WWE things going.
There's a lot. Yeah.
I mean, The Undertaker's one-man show is technically a WWE event.
Absolutely.
You couldn't even get to go because there's WWE World at WrestleMania. So that's basically a touring museum exhibit.
Yeah.
So, which is fascinating. There are old rings there. There are championship belts there. There are robes. There are boots. There are live podcasts going on. There are meet and greets in this cavernous convention center. So that's exhausting.
Yeah.
because it's like hours of walking around and looking at things and waiting on lines. And, then you have NXT. There's just so much happening just from WWE. And then if you want to see Tokyo Yoshi, the Japanese women's promotion, or you want to go to a women's lucha show, or you want to see the guys from Progress in the UK, you're running all over the place.
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, it's a whirlwind, but it's amazing, and it must be crazy for you to see. I mean, I get obviously you've seen this very gradually, but you were there in WWF, as you say, in the headquarters in the mid '90s when the WWF was really struggling, like kind of 1995.
I was there. Yes, I've seen the cycles.
Yeah,
I've gone through the cycles,
and to see where it is now, where it's. I mean, I find it dizzying as a fan to see how big it is in 2025 and how incredibly mainstream it is, because as a wrestling fan you get very used, as you say, to being the butt of a joke, to I can't even begin to account the amount of times someone has said, why do you watch that, it's all fake. It's just the classic thing.
Well, usually what they say is it's fake, right?
Yeah, it's fake, right? And then a couple of minutes later, have you ever met Hulk Hogan? It's
right.
Because everyone was a wrestling fan at some point. But you're right. Like it's got that legitimacy now, and I guess that all begins with WrestleMania 3. I mean, one of the things that I loved, all the stories in the book where you've talked to a lot of people who have memories of going as kids and kind of cajoling parents, or even parents of
friends,
drag them along, and these poor adults being forced to sit through hours and hours of wrestling, which is, I very much remember my poor sister being dragged to wrestling shows to take me. But I love all the talk in the book around the Pontiac Silverdome, because that's such an iconic, spectacular venue, but it's a venue that, as you described beautifully in the book, was structurally very, very problematic. And we've all seen it immortalized on VHS as this incredible dome, which just really adds to the allure. I mean, how big a role do you feel that the aesthetics of the Silverdome played?
I mean, I haven't taken that into an account, but I mean, it was an inflatable dome, and I believe Steve Taylor, who's the former photographer for former chief photographer, later vice president of operations for WWE. He said, like, if you would open a door, air would rush in. When you would close the door, air would rush out. And when they were calculating where the lighting grids would be situated, they had to take into account that at a certain point of the night, not that the dome would completely deflate, but enough air would leave that the lighting grids would be lowered somewhat. Wow. So you had to plan with the lighting being in a different place where it would be in the beginning of the night.
It's amazing. It's amazing. It's all the things that you don't think about, but actually
I didn't think about it till I started on the book.
Yeah, I know. And it's, you take it for granted, but it's an incredible, incredible venue.